East Asia and Southeast Asia. So I am Dr. Nanapang Popajit, a lecturer at International Buddhist Study College of MCU. I'm particularly honored and delighted to be a moderator for this international conference today. And just a quick note, this conference is being recorded, so please be aware of it. And please remember to turn off your microphone during the conference as well. It is indeed a very special privilege and pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of the Director of International Buddhist Study College of MCU and Bangkok University as organizers and hosts of this international conference. It is the most auspicious occasion that chairpersons of both International Buddhist Studies College of MCU and Bangkok University collaborate with International Conference as hosting partners. And we organize the International Conference on the Buddhist narrative in East Asia and Southeast Asia with three main objectives. So please let me address the objectives of today's conference. First, to promote the activities that improve the academic performance of both universities. Second, to disseminate the teaching of both Mahayana and Theravada Buddhism to the students at both universities to promote the Buddhist unity and make a global impact for the good and for those who are interested around the world. And on top of that, to implement the MOU of both universities to collaborate at both organizational level and personnel level that beneficially affects the faculty members, lecturers, students, and staff. So at the moment, there are, let me please check, approximately 116 international participants who are joining the online conference. So in the conference, each presenter will have about 15 minutes to present their work. So the participant can prepare your question, and we are going to hold your question and ask each presenter at the end of that presentation. And right now, Venerable Professor Dr. Paramahansa Thammahaso, the Director of International Buddhist Study College, is with us for a welcome and opening remarks. And I would like to humbly ask you to turn on your cameras to show our respect to Most Venerable in this online international conference. Thank you. So I would like to take this opportunity to briefly introduce the biography of Venerable Professor Dr. Paramahansa Thammahaso, the Director of International Buddhist Study College. Venerable Professor Dr. Paramahansa Thammahaso is currently a professor of International Buddhist Study College of Mahachulalongkorn Rajavidyalaya University and also a secretary to Director of International Association of Buddhist University or IABU, and Director of International Buddhist Study College or IBSC. He is also a very skilled lecturer and teacher and professor, and the courses that he teaches for in the areas of Buddhism and modern science, seminar on Buddhism and peaceful means, and Buddhism and current affairs, Buddhist philosophy, seminar on Buddhism, and engaged Buddhism. Venerable Professor Dr. Paramahansa Thammahaso is often invited to lecture at governance and private sector schools and businesses. For example, he has lectured and taught at Thammasat and Chulalongkorn universities. He has given seminars at government institutes such as the Department of Disaster Prevention and Migration, the Ministry of Interior, and the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment. Venerable Professor Dr. Paramahansa Thammahaso is also an experienced meditation master. And one central theme of Venerable Professor Dr. Paramahansa Thammahaso research, teaching, and administration is his dedication to the cause of using peaceful means to help prevent and manage social problems. He encourages his associate professor and staff and students to skillfully engage this area to the society, and to do so with the great mindfulness. He also values the scholarship highly, and he himself an accomplished scholar. He encouraged or discovered complementary and mutually beneficial directions of Buddhism and science. And however, he also a practical person at heart, and he often note that when we all need to apply our studies on day-to-day level as much as possible. He says there is no time like the present to do so. So on this occasion, may I respectfully invite Venerable Professor Dr. Pramahahansa Thammahaso, the Director of International Buddhist Study College, to lead the congregation to pay homage to the Triple Gems and deliver a welcome and opening remarks for International Conference on Buddhist Narrative in East Asia and Southeast Asia, and also give the presentation on Buddhism from Pariyatti to Patipatti. We will have the Venerable Professor Dr. Pramahansa Thammahaso presentation, and then following that Q&A that you can join in. Please, Venerable.
Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tatsa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Respected to Mahasangha, led by Most Venerable Ajahn Bandit, Professor Hoang Sunin, the Dean of Faculty of Buddhism, Bangkok University, Korea, and you all who come to join us today. It is just good opportunity for all of us who we have just good time to share our experiences, especially for you all who would like to know more about Buddhism, especially from Mahayana and Theravada school. So far we learned Tripitaka, we learned Buddhist scripture, but the thing is that there are something that we interested in Buddhist narrative. Especially there are too many stories that we bring you all to understand more. When we talk about Buddhism, there are too many kinds of stories that we have to take more time to learn how to know something inside there. The way we know is the way we understand deeply about concept. It's about concept. For what? The reason why we have to learn Buddha teaching, especially about the story inside there, from Jataka, from Sutra, or from the way they practice. Because when we understand something inside there clearly, that we bring all of us to practice properly and more effectively. The way we learn is the way we practice. It's all the same one. The way you learn from Tripitaka relate with the way you practice as well. Because the way we learn from the Buddha, because in the past, when the Buddha lived from royal palace, he tried to find something. Something he tried to find is true happiness. Because so far, when he was a child, he practiced meditation. Then he got married. He had many things. He had property, money, house, and everything. Unfortunately, everything he has is unable to bring him to achieve true happiness. Because when he stay in royal family, he still be suffer. He still be complicated in his life. He still be unhappy with whatever he have. That's the reason why the question come to his mind when he was Siddhartha Bodhisattva. The question come to his mind. Everything he have is unable to bring true happiness to me. So what about true happiness? What about true happiness? Because when we talk about true happiness, that happiness is no condition. No condition. Because many times you ask something from other people, but when you get something from other people, you still be suffer. You still be unhappy with that. We call isolation. So, because of this, is the reason why the Buddha, Siddhartha Bodhisattva, have to leave from royal palace in order to find something he would like to achieve. So the Buddha tried to show us in terms of materialism and consumerism that is unable to bring true happiness to our life. When he practiced meditation on the top of the mountain, eventually an answer still appear again and again. An answer appear again and again because foundation of true happiness, or foundation of peace will be mindfulness. The thing I would like to tell you, when we learn from our Buddha life, when we learn from our Buddha life, Siddhartha Bodhisattva learned many sciences. He have a lot of knowledge. He learned about mathematics, philosophy, social science, education from Takashila. Now is in Afghanistan. He learned 28 sciences, 18 sciences. He get more knowledge. But the way he tried to learn, that is we call pariyatti. That is pariyatti. He learned a lot, but one thing come to us. I would like to explain to you. When we talk about education, to me, there are two kinds of education. There are two kinds of education. The first one we call inner education. The second one, outer education. But when the Buddha complete 18 sciences, that one we call outer education. Outer education will be able to take the best care of your body. Because when you know more many subjects, you can be a lecturer, you can be businessman to get more money. But eventually, outer education is unable to bring true happiness to your mind. You can build a car. You can build plane, get more money from that. But eventually, you still be unhappy for a long time because of that. That is outer education. But when the Buddha tried to practice, and eventually he used a tool. The tool he used is mindfulness. Mindfulness is bring you to understand yourself. Who are you? Where you come from? Mindfulness, that is the tool to bring you to understand yourself. We call inner education. In terms of Buddhism, we call Sikha. Sikha come from two words. Sikha come from Pali language. The first one, sang, that is suffix, and ika mean understand. Sikha mean understand yourself. There's the real way to understand who are you, where you come from, especially when we start to practice. Outer education, you have to study outside from your mind, body. But inner education or Sikha, everything starts from body and mind. That's why in terms of Vipassana, body and mind is the tool to bring you all to learn and understand clearly. Body and mind is like the real lecturer. It's the real classroom. Now we live in new normal era. You work at home, work from home, we study from home. Many students would like to go to university or college to learn with their lecturer, to learn inside classroom with the friend. That is outer education. But when we talk about inner education, it's the real home. Body and mind is the real home. Body and mind is the real classroom and the real lecturer. Whatever you would like to learn and understand, your body and mind would be able to give you an answer. You will get the right answer from physical body and mind. 3 characteristics. If you would like to understand 3 characteristics clearly: impermanent, suffering, and soullessness. What is the real meaning of impermanent, suffering, and soullessness? That you should learn from your mind body. You are unable to understand 3 characteristics from your lecturer from Tripitaka. Because the real Tripitaka is here and now inside your mind body. You can learn from that. You try to remember again and again, anicca, dukkha, anatta, blah, 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 blah. You learn from Tripitaka, you learn from your lecturer. You try to remember the factor of enlightenment, or we call Podchong, start from Sati, Dhamma Vicaya to Upekha. How can you understand the real meaning of that? You learn from your mind body. Like the Buddha. The way you try to practice is the way to bring you to be the real Buddha, to achieve Buddha nature inside your mind body. So where is the Buddha? The Buddha is inside Tripitaka. So the body of the Buddha passed away already 2,000 years ago. The body of the Buddha passed away already. How can you find it? They burn already and back to soil, water, fire, air, and back to 4 elements already. That's the body of the Buddha. But before the Buddha passed away, he tried to affirm that when I pass away, Dhamma and Vinaya will be your master. Dhamma and Vinaya will be your master. So who see the Dhamma? Who will see the Buddha? So where is the Dhamma? Where is the Buddha? Everything inside your mind body. When you practice meditation, when you try to be mindful, so the Buddha is in everywhere you go. Mindful walking, you be mindful, the Buddha will be there as well. Mindful speaking, mindful listening, mindful eating, mindful driving, mindful meeting. Every time when you have mindfulness and observe again and again, deeply, deeply, deeply inside your mind body. At the end, you will see the Buddha inside there. The Buddha lying in your mind body. The Buddha waiting for you all the time. When you wake up, when you walk, when you sleep. There are too many people, they understand that if you would like to practice meditation, you have to go to monastery. If you would like to practice meditation, you have to go to meet monk. They will bring you to practice. Let's go to on the top of the mountain and practice meditation inside there, on the top of the mountain. It's not true. Mindfulness belongs to the monk. Mindfulness not belong to the temple.
Recording in progress.
Mindfulness not belong to the Buddha. But mindfulness belongs to those who suffer and would like to achieve true happiness. So mindfulness lying inside your mind body. When you practice Mahasatipatthana, observe physical body, sensation, mind, and Dhamma. Where is mindfulness? Belong to the monk? Or belong to the temple? Belong to Buddhism? No, it's not true. Mindfulness is here inside your mind body. When you know, you see everything as they are. When you breathe in and breathe out, you see 4 elements inside your mind, inside your body, because your body comes from 4 elements. When you see again and again, you will see that phenomena. So vipassana, so mindfulness. That's the way to bring you to seek the Dhamma. When you see the Dhamma, eventually you will see the Buddha inside there. So, here's the thing I would like to talk to you today. Here's the thing I would like to share my experiences with you today. Just pariyatti. Just pariyatti is unable to bring you to see the real Buddha. One way to bring you all to see the real Buddha, you all have to practice meditation. And today, I would like to thank Professor Hwang Sunin, the Dean of Faculty of Buddhism, Bangkok University, Korea, who tried to join hand in hand with International Buddhist Study College. Of course, now we have just a best friend and good friend. And we will try best to sign MOU and collaborate, work together closely. It's not for 2 institutions, but for human beings around the world who suffer and need inspiration, motivation to bring true happiness to their life. And once again, I would like to thank all speakers today who come to join us. And I do hope that you all will get more experiences from us and bring it to practice in order to achieve nirvana. And thank you very much. Buddha bless you all.
Thank you very much indeed, Venerable Professor Dr. Pramahahansa Thammahaso. On behalf of all lecturers, faculty members, and distinguished participants, I would like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to Venerable Professor Dr. Pramahahansa Thammahaso, the Director of International Buddhist Study College, for a welcome and opening remarks for International Conference on Buddhist Narrative in East Asia and Southeast Asia, and give speech on Buddhism from Pariyatti to Patipatti. So to reach the ultimate goal of Buddhism or the state of Nibbana, it cannot be realized by the power of formal education that reflects only the so-called outer education, but requires practically that take action by focusing on internal education, which is called inner education. Therefore, the education is not only acquired from pariyatti, because the true meaning of education is understanding and having the wisdom to see clearly, in other words, to understand oneself by using the body and mind as the tool for education. And important mission in education is to use the foundation of mindfulness, which is the body, the feeling, the mind, and the Dhamma, to bring clarity for wisdom. Right. Thank you very much, Venerable. And today we also feel honored and privileged to have Professor Dr. Hwang Sunil, the Dean of the College of Buddhism from Bangkok University. Please let me take just a few moments to briefly introduce his biography. So Dr. Hwang Sunil is a professor in the College of Buddhism in Bangkok University in Seoul, South Korea. His main field of research is the doctoral history in early Buddhism, as well as Buddhist culture in South and Southeast Asia. He received his PhD from Oxford University concerning the doctoral history of Nirvana in India Buddhism. He has been visiting professor at AI Farabic Khalsa National University, Chulalongkorn University, Saitama University. His publication includes Metaphor and Literalism in Buddhism, Sermon of 100 Days, and Advance of Theravada Buddhism into Southeast Asia. He was awarded with many academic awards, and he is a former Dean of Academic Affairs and Director in EBTI and Culture Content in Bangkok University, and is currently working as the Dean of College of Buddhism at the Bangkok University. You can subscribe him on YouTube channel as well, and his YouTube channel name is Minute Buddhism, right? So next, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Hwang Sunil, the Dean of College of Buddhism at Bangkok University, to present his work on the Dana perfection in the Vesantara Jataka and the awakening of the Buddha. Please welcome him.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind introduction. And I'm very honored to be able to give a talk, especially together with the IBSC, mainly because, IBSC is International College in MCU, Maha Chulalongkorn Raja Vidyalaya, in Thailand. And this is one of the biggest, Buddhist university in Thailand. And in Korea, Dongguk University, founded by Korean Buddhist Joge Order, and the Joge Order cover around 80% of Korean Buddhists. So I'm usually say Dongguk is one of the biggest university, especially Buddhist university in South Korea. So working together in between IBSC and College of Buddhism is truly making a kind of international synthesis between, Theravada Buddhism or East Asian Buddhism, between, Vipassana meditation together with the Zen meditation, between, Mahayana Buddhism together with the mainstream Southeast Asian Buddhism. So I think between the two universities, we can do a lot together, a lot together. So, nowadays many people think of Buddhism a kind of way saying, Tibetan Buddhism different, Southern Buddhism different, East Asian Buddhism different. Korean Buddhists say Japanese Buddhism different from us. Everyone said they are different. We are identical. We are unique. But in terms of the teaching of the Buddha, all the different kind of Buddhism are actually the same, and we should realize that Buddhists in Asia should realize that Buddhist element penetrate all the countries in the Asia, and the Buddhism could be the only religion which can link, the people in each Asian country together. So Buddhism can truly make a kind of harmonious, unity among the Asian people, and many, people can join in terms of Buddhism. So Buddhism, if we can do this kind of work together, again and again. And I think Buddhism can actually make, can contribute to establish true world peace, which can be leading to the true happiness of all living beings on Earth and as well as the universe. I usually talk about it. So I'm very happy, and I always think the Venerable Sanghas in Thailand and the Venerable Sanghas in Korea should work together, realize the importance of the teaching of the Buddha to promote the teaching of the Buddha together. So Korea and Thailand are one of the best place to do together, and Dongguk and MCU and College of Buddhism and IBSC, we have a perfect match, I think. So today I'm going to talk quickly about my presentation on Dana perfection in Vesantara Jataka and the awakening of the Buddha. So I will follow my presentation. 안 돼?
화면이 안 뜨는데요.
Sorry. 공유 중지 눌러야 되나?
Yes, Professor, are you still here in the conference? Okay, so now we can see your slides. Okay, so maybe Professor Sonil need to get in.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can
okay.
hear you. Yes, please continue. Yes.
So I'm maybe in 10 minutes I will try to finish my presentation on Dana perfection in Vesantara Jataka and awakening of the Buddha. I have a 4 section, an introduction. This presentation is based on my work on, the paper presented to the Thai Studies Institute in Chulalongkorn University. The book published was Buddhist Narrative in Asia and Beyond. And I was done on something about the Dana of one's own body and Dana perfection in Vesantara Jataka. So I updated my photo and I updated some of the thinking inside of that paper and make this presentation today. Today I'm going to use a temple in Puranakon Ayutthaya and Bangkok and Ratchaburi and Phetchaburi mainly. Bangkok, we have a Bangkok National Museum. And Phetchaburi, Yai Suwannaram, very nice temple in the old city. And it's a Kongkaram in Ratchaburi. It's a Mon temple near the city. No, not in the city center. It's the rural area. And of course, my favorite place, Tipitaka Hall in MCU. Tipitaka Hall in MCU. So, Vesantara Jataka or Visvantara Jataka in Sanskrit was probably one of the most well represented and well venerated Jataka within early period of Buddhism in India. This story was depicted on the north gate of the great stupa of Sanchi. And according to the Peter Skilling, Vesantara Jataka could be the only Jataka to be depicted in such detail at Sanchi or elsewhere during the early period And it is certainly the only Jataka to receive such a prominence as Sanchi. And I'm very interested in Vesantara Jataka because this Jataka is well, most of the Thai people, most of people from, Laos and Cambodia, they all knew about the Vesantara, so popular. So among many temples talking over Vesantara Jataka, I like Wat Mai in Luang Prabang in Laos. In Laos. And it's Wat Mai because the whole ceiling was actually dedicated to the story of Vesantara Jataka here. And I think, many audience already knew about Vesantara Jataka, so I'm going into detail. But as you can see, the former Buddha, the Prince Vesantara, actually offer, white elephant to the 7 Brahmins. This elephant can bring rain. So every people in his own city become very upset. Became very upset. This is a 2nd century depiction of a donation of a white elephant to the Brahmin in Parhut in India. And this one from modern Thai mural painting. And because of that action, people there become very upset, and the princess together with the prince together with his wife and son and daughter actually kicked out from the city. And on the way, they are going to the hermitage. Brahmins keep appearing, and they asking for the cart, asking for the horse, and so on. And eventually, prince and his wife become bare feet together with his son and daughter. This one from Kongharam in Ratchaburi, one of my favorite mural painting on the bare feet of Prince Vesantara and Mati. and during that time, the one Brahmin get married with the young lady, and the young lady was actually mocked by people because this young lady doing so well to his old Brahmin. So every villagers, actually making fun of her. This is very nice Thai mural painting depicting that, kind of actions from the villagers. So she actually pushed her husband, Jujaka, to go to Vesantara, asking for his son and daughter. And Jujaka actually did. Eventually, they met. And the Prince Vesantara actually said to his son and his daughter that he wants to achieve, paramita. Paramita is a perfection. So in this story, Prince Vesantara tried to achieve dana perfection, the perfection of giving, so that he can achieve the wisdom through which you can save the whole sentient being. He can, bring his own enlightenment as well as happiness for the old people. So his son and daughter actually persuaded by his father, and the daughter was actually hiding behind the lotus leaf here. And he eventually donate his son and daughter to the Jujaka. And then, they were actually, bringing by him, look like a prisoner or something like that. You can see that one frequently. And then at that moment, God Indra tried to test the determination of the Prince Vesantara by showing his appearance as a Brahmin and asking for his wife, and the Vesantara donate his wife. But that's the moment when actually Prince Vesantara achieved the dana perfection. So this is a bit strange from the modern ethics, but during the time of the India, when we think about Vesantara's extreme action, extreme donation of his own son and daughter and wife, it actually show a kind of a way one become Buddhist monk. In order to become Buddhist monk, one should leave behind their family, behind their son and daughter, behind their wife, and they become a kind of a person who can pursue, not for the sake of his own family, but for the sake of his own perfection, as well as for the sake of happiness, welfare of all living beings. So the Buddha said in Mahabhaka, in Vinaya, he actually said, Bahujana Sukhaya, Bahujana Hitaya. So that's the way, one become Buddhist monk. Besantara's extreme act of donation actually show the way one become Buddhist monk, because he step by step leaving behind his son and daughter and his wife as well. But as soon as the king Besantara donate his wife to the god Indra, as a Brahmin, he actually show his true form. He actually said, I can borrow my property of your wife to you until you die, so that you cannot give your wife to anyone else. And then God Indra said, I will fulfill all your wishes. So his son and daughter successfully going back to his grandmother and grandfather, and Jujaka become very rich person, but he eventually die over too much eating, and the whole family, gathered together. They have a big ceremony. So Besantara, when he passed away from that life, he was reborn as a god in 33 heaven, and then he was reborn as a Prince Siddhartha. The Buddha, historical Buddha, we actually talk about it. So Vesantara Jataka has got direct link with a biography of the Buddha. So this is so important. So dana perfection. Within the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, perfect Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings requires cultivating 6 perfection. It's called the Paramita Sho. The giving, morality, patience, effort, meditative concentration, and wisdom. So Besantara Jataka actually talking about the first step, dana. In Korea, we usually said just the one step to go to the goal, we already achieve 50% of our way to the goal. So the first step is so important. So dana perfection is among the most important thing, not only within Southeast Asian Buddhism, but also among the East Asian Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism as well. According to Mahaprajanya Paramita Shastra done by Kumarajiva, dana or giving has got 3 kinds: less gift, middle gift, and highest gift. So less gift, giving wealth, middle gift, giving one's own body. It is called the Kaya Dana. And the highest gift, triply pure giving. It consists of making no distinction between things given, donor, and the recipient. So despite the ethical problems in giving one's own children and wife into slavery, this emphasizes Besantara's total detachment from things given, donor, and recipient. However, it could be argued that in terms of the equanimity of one's own mind, giving one's own body seems to be rather easier than giving one's own children and wife. Assuming that there is a gunman in a house threatening to kill one's own children and wife, many would agree that it is easier to say, you should rather kill me, but not my children and wife. However, it is exceedingly or almost impossible to say, you can kill my family. My mind is detached. That's almost impossible. But actually, Vesantara did in that story when we follow it. It does not mean, ordinary people follow, but it actually shows some kind of, important aspect of Buddhism. So Vesantara's act of giving his children and wife into slavery could be regarded as a highest gift, giving anything whatsoever, provided that the mind is detached. So this is so difficult. So, Vesantara to achieve that, through which he can have a chance to be born as a Siddhartha to achieve enlightenment. Studying Vesantara Jataka can help us to understand some of the dynamic religious aspect of Southeast Asian Buddhism. One case could be the amusing explanation of how Mara's army was defeated by Buddha at the time of his awakening under a Bodhi tree. Mara's defeat has been symbolized by special posture of the Buddha known as Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, touching the earth or calling us to witness. This hand gesture, the Buddha is usually seated cross-legged, his left hand and his lip and palm upward, while his right hand is on his knee, palm inward, with the finger pointing to the earth. Since the Buddha's awakening is always, almost always associated with the defeat of the Mara, this hand gesture, Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, has become the symbol of Buddha's awakening and has been widespread in Southeast Asian Buddhist tradition. So this is Wat Kongkaram in Ratchaburi, nice Buddha statue, and we have the Buddha having Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, and this is how can I say, in MCU, Buddha Shariraka Hall. This is the ceremony when the true Shariraka of the Buddha arrived from Sri Lanka when the university was found. And even though at the moment this Tipitaka Hall disappeared due to the flood in the year 2011, I got a chance to go down there year 2010 to take a photo of such a beautiful mural painting. Here you can see the Buddha showing Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. So if you go to Sukhothai, almost all the Buddha statue has got this, Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, an excellent Bhumi Sparsha Mudra in Wachichum in Sukhothai. Korea also has got Bhumi Sparsha Mudra Buddha in Seokgul in Gyeongju. And this Goryeo dynasty stone carving of the Buddha show the hands, but Korean hands very small, compared with the Thai huge hands you can see. So when the Buddha approaching to the Bodhi tree, in this episode, the Buddha actually determined my skin indeed, and the nerve and bone may become aid, and very blood in my body may dry up, but still I attain the complete insight. This seat I will not leave. So when the Buddha actually leave from the seat, it is stopping or giving up of his awakening. I will going past. So when the Buddha show his hands to the earth, in Thai tradition, we have a very nice, Me Pratorani, is the earth goddess appear, and the earth goddess actually try to winding her hair, and through which a big flood occur, and all the army of Mara disappear. So Yai Suwannaram in Phetchaburi has got very old, among the oldest I've ever seen in Thai, Me Pratorani there. And 16th and 17th century Sukhothai style temple, actually Buddha statue, actually show Me Pratorani here. So I think I should skip this one. So the water was actually gathered together mainly because when Indian tradition, when we have a donation, they usually pouring water on the ground, which means the transferable ownership cannot reverse. So you can see here in Jetawana in Rajgir, King Bimbisara pouring water to the Buddha here. You can see, and also donation of Jetawana. Here, Ananda Pindaka actually pouring water. So, the Buddha, according to the Vesantara Jataka, did 700 great donation before he moving to the mountain. This is 700 donation. So he pouring so much water, and he's so many life before he become born as a Buddha. Siddhartha, he donated a lot. So that water actually gathered together the hair of the Me Pratorani. I skipped this. So that water actually bring the power to remove all the army of Amara. So this story actually made me fascinated. In many occasions, what happened to the defeat of Mara's army in East Asian Buddhist tradition? As mentioned before, the defeat of Mara was also symbolized by Bhumi Sparasya Mudra, touching earth or calling the earth to witness. However, there is neither concept of earth goddess nor custom of making act of giving by pouring water in East Asia. So Korean version, as you can see here, when the Buddha did the Bhumi Sparasya Mudra, earth goddess, not the god, earth god actually appear together with the army of underworld, and they actually kill all the army of of Mara. So you can see here the head cut, body was cut, and the army of underworld and appear, and they destroy army of Mara. So the awakening of Buddha, according to East Asian tradition, a kind of a bloody war, outcome of a bloody war. So that is why I like East Asian version, Southeast Asian version. When we visit a Buddhist temple in Southeast Asia, we often come across a small shrine depicted to Pra-me-Torani, the earth goddess, at the gate, temple wall, or small pond. Without doubt, this might be one of the rare instances in Southeast Asian Buddhism in which female play a major role in the life of the Buddha. You can see here in Vientiane, in front of the Golden Temple, or one in I think it's a Doi Step in Chiang Mai. Similar one and Lao one, and this one another Thai temple. From a historical point of view, this could be regarded as a tribunal. However, this can also give a tremendous comfort and the insight to the woman in Southeast Asia. So at the end of the story, when we think about it, this kind of Southeast Asian version actually show, the Sangha of Southeast Asia, Theravada Buddhism, there is no bhikshuni. So what could be the place of a feminine side? What could be place of a woman in, Buddhist Sangha? But actually, this South Asian version clearly show woman can have a major role for the Buddha achieving the enlightenment, one of the most important moments of the Buddha. So woman can be important. Woman can be a part of the important, activity or important event of the Buddha. So that, it can give a real comfort and the kind of, membership of a South Asian woman to become a Buddhist, to become a true Buddhist things, and so on. As I have shown in this paper, the act of giving centered around the Vesantara Jataka could play an important role in the indigenous creativity in introducing Pra-me-Torani, the earth goddess, into biography of Buddha in the Southeast Asian Buddhism. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Huang Sunil. So in the Vesantara Jataka, the main motive for Vesantara's act of giving or dana, he tried to give his children and wife, is described as his deep concentration. And although this could evoke a serious ethical problems, as Professor just showed us, whether the children and wife could be regarded as one's own property or not. So Professor Dr. Huang Sunil attempted to show us how his extreme act of giving could be defended and justified, and also the link between Vesantara Jataka and the awakening of the Buddhas in his life story. So at this time, we would like to move on to Q&A. Just to remind everyone, this is being recorded, and you can either ask question by tapping the hand icon to raise your hand for a question, or you can type your question in the chat, and then we will read it. So please feel free for now to ask your question. Now it seems to be that Professor Frank raised your hand for a question. Please turn on your microphone.
Very much for acknowledging my question. I really am very happy to see our old friend, Dr. Sunil Huang here. And I enjoyed your presentation a lot. It's packed with interesting information. I did see the volume by Skilling and McDaniel, Buddhist Narrative, and I did see your paper in there. It's a very scholarly book and very worthwhile. I wonder if you have any comment on another book by Richard Gombrich and Margaret Cohn. Would you care to make any comment? Thank you.
So Richard Gombrich, my supervisor when I was at Oxford, he did translate Vesantara Jataka together with Margaret Cohn, and that was published I think 20 years ago. And that book was actually helping me a lot to understand the structure of the Buddhism. But in that book, Margaret Cohn clearly talking about the ethical problem occur in Vesantara Jataka. And she actually said that when we go to the Sri Lanka, Christian missionary said to the Sri Lankan boy that, are you going to be a Buddhist to become a husband when you gave your son and daughter and wife to other people? Better to be a Christian, or something like that. That sort of story actually appear. But nowadays we have another one, another English translation appear. It's from Silkworm books, done by who is it? Another one, which was better informed, more footnote. So Gombrich one a bit outdated, but we have another one coming. So I hope eventually excellent Thai translation of Vesantara Jataka also appear in the near future. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you. So I think many people I believe they have many questions, but I think now we have to move on to the next speaker. Thank you so much, Venerable. Thank you so much, Professor Sunil. So our next speaker, let me invite Venerable Pandit Chitta Samaro, a very special guest from Faculty of Buddhism of MCU. Venerable Pandit Chitta Samaro obtained a Master in Buddhist Study from International Buddhist Study College of Mahachulalongkorn Rashtravidyaya University. Venerable Pandit also obtained his Bachelor of Arts in Buddhist Study from MCU, and prior in his Buddhist philosophy, his research interest in dependent origination and Buddhist psychology, and currently Venerable he is working as a guest lecturer at MCU. And today he will be presenting his work on the role of water as a symbol of consciousness in Buddhist narrative. So please, Venerable.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. And greetings to my fellow monks, Dr. Hansa, and other monks and nuns, and to the moderator, and to all the participants. We seem to have gone over time a little bit, so I'm going to accelerate our program a little bit today. If I can share my screen, yeah. Now, I can't see it. Can you see my screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, very good. So I wanted to talk today on one of my great passions, which in fact is the analysis of story. I tend to focus on Western fairy tales, but in fact the mechanics of story go across all cultures and all places and all times. And there are certain, well, in Buddhism especially, our emphasis tends to be on the Pali recitation tradition, but I want to point out that there are three chief ways in which wisdom can be recorded and can be passed on from people to people and culture to culture. First way is to write something down, and this, of course, is very much venerated in the Western world, and they often complain that Buddhism was not written down until 1,000 years after the Buddha, which is not quite true, but this is the way it's often presented. The idea being that only when something is written down is it really properly recorded. But there are advantages and disadvantages to writing down. One is you can stick your parchment in a jar and leave it for 2,000 years, as has happened with some of the Christian scriptures, and it still comes out whole. There are advantages to putting things onto stone and making, for example, the Ashoka pillars. And this is a very powerful way of recording some wisdom. There are disadvantages to writing down. One is that if you make a mistake when you write something down, that mistake is then copied into every subsequent copy. Also, when writing down, you can make changes. This happened a lot in Christianity, where editors have decided on what is actually the right teaching to be passed on and edited out things that they didn't like. There is some speculation that there was an early teaching of reincarnation in Christianity and that this was written out or edited out of Christianity by later editors. Also, when you write something down, it is subject to fire, to flood, to fungus, etc. A second form of record keeping or wisdom transmission is to do recitation, and this tends to be frowned on by the West. But in fact, recitation is probably the best form of record keeping because the teaching is there in people's minds where it should be and not on some kind of parchment or some kind of pillar. It is in people's minds, it is recited together. The recitation can be stopped and discussed, which is how the Atthakatha or the commentaries came about. In recitation, if you make a mistake while you're making your recitation, this gets automatically corrected. You hear yourself making a mistake, so you make a correction to it. Also, if 10,000 or 100,000 people can make a recitation, it's not possible for you to make changes according to what you think. Take, for example, the Dhammacakka Sutta is recited to this day across many cultures, across many languages and countries. You couldn't make a change to it if you wished, because it is there present in so many people's minds. A third form of record keeping is storytelling. Now, story will change culture to culture, eon to eon. Now, this may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing. Suddenly, it is continually modernized, which is made relevant to the culture. This can be great, but you're changing the original teaching. I'd like to bring up the example right now of the story of Cinderella, which is a big Western movie at the moment, but they've changed all the details. In the original, Cinderella will marry the prince, but in the new version that they put out, Cinderella says, "Actually, Prince, I don't know if you're so good. I think I would like to live my life for me and not for somebody else." So they've changed the concepts and updated. Now, this will be relevant to a modern audience, but you may lose the original point of wisdom in the story. Stories are much easier to transmit. They're much, much more memorable. They use much, much more concrete images, which make them very powerful things. Every politician, every country around the world, they seek to use storytelling to put across their ideas. It's a shortcut to understanding that is extremely powerful. So, in stories, which don't get analyzed very much, we like to tell the stories, but very few people, especially in Buddhism, are analyzing the mechanics of storytelling. So stories will use certain metaphors to shortcut understanding. And the reason for this is to take abstract concepts and make them into something tangible. Let us take, for example, Little Red Riding Hood, famous fairy tale, and Little Red Riding Hood meets the big bad wolf in bed. And this is a warning story to children, both male and female, is don't get caught up in sexuality. Well, having a wolf in a bed is a much more powerful symbol to relate to than the simple description of the idea. So metaphors turn abstract concepts into concrete symbols, and they also attach feelings to those symbols as a shortcut to our understanding. Now, these symbols that are used in stories may be specific to the story, but that's not a very good way in general. It may be specific to the culture. For example, certain royal themes, certain colors. I know red in Chinese is a symbol of marriage. Brides get married in red, but in Western tradition it's different. Or many symbols are actually archetypes that are spread right across cultures and across eons. So I want to focus specifically on the third type today, the universal archetypal symbols. I want to focus on the symbol of water as a metaphor for consciousness. But first of all, we just need to mention that consciousness, when we talk about it in these terms, is slightly different to how we talk about it in Buddhism. In Buddhism, consciousness is usually the translation of the term vijnana. And vijnana is specifically sense door cognition. And I would posit that cognition is a better translation than the word consciousness. However, I do think we should use the common terms that we have already. There is a trend amongst many scholars. They want to redefine terms that dukkha doesn't mean suffering and blah, blah, blah. I think we should use the terms that we have. So consciousness in Buddhism, vijnana, is specifically sense door consciousness. For example, an eye meets a form with corresponding engagement, which the Atthakatha glosses as manasikara. And then the corresponding class of consciousness will arise. So vijnana, for the most part in Buddhism, really means sense door cognition rather than consciousness in the very vague idea that we have of the term in English. So there are a number of ways in which consciousness is used in the era in cross cultures. As water will lend itself very naturally to this vague concept of consciousness. Water has no form, it has no shape. It will take on the shape of the thing, of the container which holds it. In exactly the same way, consciousness takes on the form or the shape of the object to which it is attached. So the eye sees an object, a form or a shape or a color. That form, shape, or color is the container for consciousness. Then your attention switches to your ear and a sound, and your consciousness takes on the form of that ear, of that sound. Now, there is a feeling that we have that consciousness is continuous flow throughout these different things. But consciousness is shaped or formed by the thing to which it is pointed to. This is why water is a natural symbol and a universal symbol for consciousness. It naturally flows onto different objects while having no form of itself. Water can be steam, it can be snow, it can be a river, it can be a sea or an ocean. So water naturally takes on these different forms. And in that sense, I would say that as consciousness, water is closer, the symbology of water is closer to the term citta than it is to the term vijnana. Citta in the Satipatthana Sutta, it says one knows mind knowing mind, or citta, the understanding of citta. Citta there can be bright, can be dull, can be expanded, can be contracted, can be caught up in lust, can be caught up in desire. It can be refined, it can be coarse. So there are many different forms that citta can take. Again, water naturally lends itself to this metaphor or analogy, because our citta can take on so many forms. So water can take on many forms. It can be an ocean. It can be a body of water with evil, nasty things lurking in the bottom of it. So many Buddhist examples. For example, crocodiles lying in wait in the water is a metaphor for sensual lust. If you get caught up in it, there are nasty things about to bite you. So this is why water is across cultures. Even in the Old Testament, for example, God wants to draw a distinction between the innate God consciousness and consciousness of objects. And he says, people, this is in Jeremiah, he says, people have forsaken me, who am the fount of living water, and hewn themselves broken cisterns that can hold no water. Now, a cistern was originally a rock that people would carve in the desert, would hollow out these rocks and use them to hold water. But the more you hollow out the rock, the greater the danger of cracking the rock. And if you crack the rock, the water will leak out fast or slow, depending on the crack. So here in the Old Testament, we see that the water goes to the form that contains it. And this is a symbol for consciousness that is caught up in sense desires, and sense desires cannot hold the water. They naturally leak. And ignored, I, who am the fountain of living waters, suggests there is a fountain or original source of that consciousness that is independent to the objects to which it is projected. We see the exact same analogy in the Journey to the West, where the stone and the monkeys on the mountainside, they say, we want to follow the river down to see where it goes. And the stone monkey says, no, we should follow the river to the source to find out what is at the source of it. And that is how the stone monkey becomes king of the monkeys. The Buddha in the Theravada suttas, he also used water, the river metaphor very commonly. I put one of the examples on screen, but there are thousands and thousands of these examples. Suppose a man being swept by the current of a river. It looks very charming and inviting. But a wise man might stand on the bank and say, hey, even though you are swept along by the current of this river that looks very inviting, nonetheless, further down the pool, further down the river, are waves and whirlpools with dangerous creatures which can possess you. When you reach there, you will undergo death or deadly suffering. Hearing that, a man may struggle with hands and feet to go against the current. I might mention